Well, look, I think it's good news. It's good news for the ratepayers of Glenorchy that the council has decided to sell the asset. It loses the Glenorchy City Council $1 million a year. That's through no fault of their own. I think commercial organisation can be a lot more entrepreneurial. The consortium, the Hydroplay Consortium, as you know, has been a major sponsor of Chargers this year and is committed to being a major sponsor of the Hobart Chargers again next year. But they're also willing to put between $3 and $4 million into upgrading the Doon Entertainment Centre and creating a very forceful, I think, bid for the National Basketball League, which is exciting times. There's still lots of bridges to cross and lots of hurdles to get over, but we'll be putting our best foot forward, particularly now convincing the Doon Entertainment, the Glenorchy City Council and the people of Glenorchy that this is the right investment for the city.
And obviously with the NBL, are the NBL keeping an eye on this proposal and what they're going to hear, I think later in, October, is going to be the launch date, is that right?
Well, I noticed Larry Kesselman liked one of my posts from Brent Costello on Facebook this morning. Look, I've been going back and forth a little bit with Larry Kesselman just to keep him up to date about what we're up to and what we're doing. We don't have a final plan to present to the NBL yet, but I've been keeping him up to date about the timeline that we do. We think the timeline will go something like in the next couple of weeks we'll unveil the branding and the whole sort of ethos around an NBL Tasmanian bid. We'll open it for memberships and for sponsorships. We're actually going to go to the market and seek to land 5,000 members if we can, because there would be no more powerful message to the NBL than rolling up in November saying we have a 4,500 seat stadium and already 5,000 members signed up. I think this is a really important point for Tasmanians in that Tasmanians, want to see national franchises. They've backed an A-League bid, they've backed an AFL bid, and they haven't got far. This is the time not just for basketball fans, but for sports fans and people in Tasmania who believe a national franchise would be good for the state to get behind this push.
Speak about the membership, and obviously I think you mentioned to Brent last week that it could be $1, could be $10, just to kickstart.
Yeah, so expect the membership will be around the $10 mark, but there'll be $10 of value in the membership with a membership card and lanyard and other bits and pieces. But it'll also guarantee you, when the NBL franchise does start playing, 20% off your first season ticket. So a great saving there. An investment of $10 could save you $100 down the track. We also have a bunch of other membership packages that are going to be released, which will include lots of fun merchandise and other bits and pieces at higher price points. None of these merchandise packs are going to make money for the consortium. They're all going to be on a cost recovery basis.
You being the man on the ground here and reporting to Justin and the consortium group back in Melbourne, a great turnout from what I've been told at the deck of the last home game. Is that a promising sign that the basketball is rising and that Chargers product is rising as well too?
Yeah, well, I think, thanks to everyone from yourself, Ron, at Chargers TV, through to our great sponsors, through to the great volunteer army and the fantastic people that work with me on the board, we have turned this club around, the Chargers, from the brink of bankruptcy just 18 months ago to see, close to 2,000 people screaming for two great wins at the Doon Entertainment Centre a couple of weeks ago. Almost brought a tear to my eye, Ron, I've got to say. And I know that when we front up on July 20th against the Northwest Thunder and the Launceston Tawns, our traditional rivalry, every single team, all four of them vying for either finals entry or position in the finals to get those home finals, every single one of the Tasmanian teams will be on that night vying for one of those spots. It's going to be a pretty wild night at the Doon Entertainment Centre, I reckon. And I hope that our volunteers and people like the Chargers TV team and our volunteer army, Rex's Rhino Wranglers on the floor, really get to enjoy the fruits of their labour, because it's been 2 years of pretty hard work. And I think July 20th is going to be a great payoff for us all.
Let's talk about that. You talked about the all four Seabull teams trying to crack the 8, and we talked about on our previous show this week about how the top 8 system is going to work, and it's very similar to, almost identical to the AFL final series. So how important is it for teams this year, because we've scrapped the 2-conference system, how important is it now for these, especially for Northwest, Tawns, and of course our women's team, all buying to get into that 8 and be involved in the finals?
Well, for our men's team, if you finish in the top 4, you're guaranteed a home final, and you're guaranteed the double chance, so you can afford to lose the first final. If you finish in the top 2, though, you're guaranteed 2 home finals. And I couldn't think of anything better than finishing in the top 2, which we now can win every game from here, Ronnie, and we are second on the ladder, not guaranteed. Potential, there is a possibility for first, but other results would have to go our way. To see our men play both the first final, win that, have a rest week and get back for the second final would be extraordinary and very exciting. Our women's team, I think, can finish as high as 5th or 6th, which would give them a home final as well. But I suspect it might come down to beating the Tawns to end up in the 8th. They have shown, our women's team, that they can beat anyone in this league on the night. Stringing some consistency together leading up to finals will be the key for them.
Let's just quickly get back to, obviously, all the issues around the league, and obviously AFL has been in the news, and Gillan McLachlan is kind of ruled out a Tassie team in the AFL for now. The A-League have kind of, unfortunately, disabandoned Tasmania in a sense. So, as we've seen in the headlines in the papers and that type of thing, is basketball ready to pounce on its opportunity now?
When you see 36% growth in basketball participation in Tasmania just in 2017 alone. 1 million people played basketball in Australia last year. With the massive rise of the NBA and the Ben Simmons factor, the massive rise of the NBL and record crowds last year through the NBL, with 2 FIBA USA versus Australia games coming up next year, plus a FIBA World Cup and all the excitement of that, plus an Olympics in 2020 where really the Boomers would be going for, if not gold, then definitely silver. I think basketball is about to explode in Australia, and Tasmania can ride that wave. I recommend to you and your watchers, Ronnie, great Netflix documentary called The Carter Effect. It's about Vince Carter moving to the Toronto Raptors and how that completely changed the city, changed the face of the franchise, changed Toronto from a hockey city to a basketball city. I think we can, with the right moves by the Glenorchy City Council, with the right moves by the NBL, I think we can do that in Greater Hobart and Southern Tasmania, in fact the whole of Tasmania.
It's interesting to get comments from Tony Barker, who's the chairman of the Northwest Funder, saying that, they want to be kept in the loop and be kept informed, and obviously the Northwest being far, far away, and making some comments about, maybe bringing a pre-season game or a regular season game, which I thought was a bit out there. What do you got to say about that?
It's very clear to the consortium that the Seabull programs are vital pathways for an NBL club to be successful. That's why Hydroplay are putting some $100,000 of sponsorship into the Chargers, because they want the Chargers to survive and thrive. It was great to see Mason Bragg also on that interview saying he'd love to play for an NBL franchise, and wouldn't it be great seeing him playing at the Northwest Thunder during the winter and being part of an NBL franchise during the summer. I think we can see a lot of our younger players, obviously we're talking men's here, but younger players coming through the Seabull ranks to aspire to play NBL. But more than that, you can invite a Trey Nichols in to play for a Chargers and test him out to see if he's ready, NBL ready or not. A Moller, similarly. So there's lots of reasons why a strong Chargers and a strong Northwest Thunder are important to an NBL franchise. A strong women's program is equally important, of course, and I believe the rising tide of basketball is going to lift all boats, and women's basketball will see a similar effect. I would love for someone other than me to take the reins of bringing a WNBL franchise to Tasmania as well. I'm afraid I don't have the capacity to do it, but it'd be great, wouldn't it, if we decided as a state that WNBL's the next cat off the rank.
So you really want to push this NBL and get up there and then stick with it for a few more years?
Well, look, I'm absolutely passionate about Tasmanian basketball. From the under-16s where my son plays, love that. From seeing the kids coming through to playing with the Chargers, seeing Geordie Hargraves start for the Chargers in the last couple of games, it's been a real thrill for me. I said 2 years ago that I had a passion and a vision to be NBL ready. I always say to my kids, the harder you work, the luckier you get, and the timing at the moment feels about right. Now, there's no guarantees in this, but I always figure you got to have a red hot go and push it as hard as you can when the timing's right and see where you end up.
David, thanks for spending some time with us here on Chargers TV, and great to talk to you.
As always, Ronnie, thanks for your great work and all the team, even young Justin, who's having a red hot go as your apprentice. It's great to have you all making such a great contribution to the club.